Man, it is a torrential downpour. Hey everyone, it is Sunday, May 27th, around 11:30 a.m. during Memorial Day weekend, and today I'm hiking the Cedar Rock Mountain Loop in the Pisgah Ranger District of Pisgah National Forest. I started the hike at the Fish Hatchery and Wildlife Center for Education, right in the middle of the Ranger District. It's a very popular jumping off point for both hikers and mountain bikers. Currently, I'm on the Cat Gap Loop Trail, already past the John Rock intersection. I already did a similar loop to this about a year ago in March of 2017. I'll provide a link in the info to that hike. But I'm skipping John Rock for now, and I'm continuing on the Cat Gap Loop Trail up to Cat Gap. From there, I will follow the Art Loeb Trail west to see Cedar Rock Mountain, and then I will head north on the Butter Gap Trail, a trail I've never been on before, to see Grogan Creek Falls before finishing up with Cedar Rock Falls, and then I'll end the hike. It is a pretty pleasant loop so far, not much elevation gain. I don't expect to have a lot of elevation gain today. I'm not sure of the distance. It is between 8 and 10 miles, so it's a little bit longer than that John Rock loop, which I think is 5.5 to 6 miles. So come along with me and see some of the sights. Hope you enjoy it. I'm getting close to the intersection of the Cat Gap Loop Trail, the John Rock Trail, and the Cat Gap Bypass Trail. And from there, it's new territory for me. I think it's going to be the steepest climb of the day up to Cat Gap to meet the Art Loeb Trail. If you haven't noticed, it is really humid out here. I'm sweating all over, even though I haven't had to work very hard so far. It is going to be in the low 80s today with high humidity. And I didn't hike last weekend because it has been raining off and on throughout the mountains for almost a week and a half. And last weekend, a lot of the creeks and rivers were raging. There were a lot of flash floods, road and bridge washouts, some emergency rescues, and unfortunately, some deaths around waterfalls. So I thought I'd take a week off, and now I'm back out here, even though this subtropical system from the Gulf is still hovering over the southeast, and the chance of rain and thunderstorms is 50 to 60% all day. This is one of the reasons why I chose an easier hike and a shorter hike in case the weather turns sour. But so far, got some sunshine, and it's quite nice, except for the humidity that probably scared away a lot of people, because the parking lot, which is very large, was only around half full for Memorial Day weekend. And I've only encountered about 10 or 15 people on the trail so far. And when I did this section of the loop last year in March, it was a lot more crowded. So here's hoping that I have a lot of isolation throughout the day. A short side trail from a campsite in Sandy Gap leads up to the southern wall of Cedar Rock Mountain. It's not as open and scenic as I predicted, but this is not the way up. I have to keep heading around the south side of the mountain to get on top, but this gives you a glimpse of what's to come. This is a nice campsite location right beside the cliffs of Cedar Rock. It is reminiscent of the Great Wall in Panthertown Valley, just on a much smaller scale. I've been sporadically passing by some mountain laurel blooms It's that time of year, maybe a week later than normal, but we had an unusually cold March this year and beginning of April. These are very white. Sometimes you'll see them a little bit more pinkish than these, but nice that the flowers are finally out. It is a pretty good climb to the top. The junction was around 3,400 feet, and the top of the mountain is over 4,000 feet. So got about a 600-foot climb and only halfway done. I am just below the summit of Cedar Rock Mountain, and I've been looking around at some of these open rock outcrops, and they're not very promising. The views are quite narrow, at least from the ones I've found. This one might be better towards the bottom, but it's pretty hazardous. It's already at a decent gradient that could be dangerous when the rocks are dry, and right now they're mostly wet from all the moisture this past week. So getting down there could be very difficult. I'm going to try to shimmy down through the bushes on the left, and if not, maybe I'll go back up that way where I came from and loop around through the trees, see if I can get down there where it's flatter. I've concluded that it's not really worth it to go out there. The views aren't necessarily expansive. I was hoping that I would get an open view of John Rock from this angle, but I'm only getting views to the south and southeast of forested peaks that I don't really know. I came through the trees relatively safely, but going out this way, everything's wet, and one slip and I'm probably dead. So I'm going to turn around and make my way back down the trail. Actually pushed past a lot of possible overlooks on the way up, trying to get to the summit first. So I'm going to check those out on the way down. This is my only view west that I've gotten along Cedar Rock Mountain, and it's basically at the beginning of the climb, the first exposed rocks I encountered. It's an okay view, not that expansive, too steep and wet to really move around that side and see what I can see in that direction. And the rain has moved in. It's been a gradual shower for the last 10-15 minutes. I haven't really gotten wet under the thick canopy, but if it keeps raining like this, all the bushes I brush up against are really going to soak me wet, and my shorts are already soaked through. So I'm ready to get back down to the Art Loeb Trail and have a little bit more of an open hike. Well, it's raining pretty hard now. I'm just holding my phone up. I don't know how this looks, but fortunately I carried my umbrella today. I'm going to try to get to the Butter Gap shelter as quickly as possible, so I could take a break from the rain and maybe put a rain cover on and protect my electronics. But it is pouring right now. All that humidity is built up, and now we have a storm. Man, it is a torrential downpour. It's been raining like this for 15 minutes or so. I just ran across two people who also happen to have umbrellas. We're all smart hikers. They said the shelter is at least 20 minutes away, which is a pretty far distance in this. Gotta keep trucking. I made it to the Butter Gap shelter. Been here about 15-20 minutes waiting out the rain. Actually got here at the exact same time as a forest ranger who was on a 911 call, and I didn't see anyone that seemed like they were in trouble, and we couldn't figure out where the hikers were. So we talked for a bit and he decided to head back. Seemed like someone heard a yell in the woods after a tree fell down, and they called 911 saying someone screamed, and they just kept moving without ever checking on them. So it's almost 3 o'clock, definitely slowed down by this rainfall. Hopefully it dissipates. I'm going to put my rain cover on, fold up one of my poles, and keep moving. But let me see if I can show you what the map looks like. Hopefully there's enough light to illuminate. Okay, this is the Pisgah Ranger District map made by the Pisgah Map Company. You can find a similar map by National Geographic, but the Pisgah Map Company is a local company and their maps are just better quality and more frequently updated. So if you have the choice, I highly recommend choosing their maps over National Geographic. Let's see if there's enough light to illuminate where I'm at. So, started at the Pisgah Center for Wildlife Education and State Fish Hatchery. I've been saying it wrong. Previously I was saying Wildlife Center for Education, but I don't really care. So, I started with the Cat Gap Loop Trail, and I followed it around John Rock all the way up to Cat Gap, and then I took the Art Loeb Trail, which is green on this map, around Cedar Rock Mountain, and then I did the out and back up to the top of Cedar Rock, continued on the Art Loeb Trail, and you can see the shelter label for Butter Gap. So from here, I'm going to continue on the ALT and pick up the Butter Gap Trail and head north. And you can see that dot right there. That's Grogan Creek Falls, or Grogan's Creek. I forget which one. And then eventually I'll connect with the Cat Gap Loop Trail again and check out Cedar Rock Falls, which is not labeled on the map, before finishing up at the parking lot. This is the Butter Gap Trail from the outside. It's a very crude A-frame shelter, but at least it got me out of the rain. I don't know if I'd like to actually camp in there, given its design, and it's kind of dirty, but it's a good spot to put a tent if it's not muddy like this. There's also a pipe spring right beside the shelter, which is a nice feature, and something I had no idea was present on the Art Loeb Trail, but there are bear cables, which is awesome. Bears are kind of a problem in this region because there are so many people who backpack in the Pisgah Ranger District. Found a really nice collection of rishis, or rishis, beside the trail. Very colorful. And actually, this big one has an enormous slug on the top of it. Look how big that thing is. That's awesome. I wonder if it's alive. Oh yeah. This is Grogan Creek Falls. Typically I would describe this as a quaint trailside waterfall, but not today. It is roaring with all of this rainfall the past week or so. Wow. Very powerful compared to all the pictures I've seen of it. It's only about 15 feet high or so, but looking really cool today. You probably can barely hear me. I'm passing through an area known as Pickle Fields. It's basically an upland bog around the confluence of Grogan Creek, which I'm looking at now. And shortly downstream, it runs into Cedar Rock Creek. And Upper Cedar Rock Falls. Flowing well today. Only about 10 or 12 feet high. Cedar Rock Falls is really raging today. Wow. Awesome sight. I just finished the hike back at the fish hatchery. It's almost 5 o'clock, which means I've been on the trail for approximately 6 hours. And I was wondering why it took me so long. And I checked the track, and this was about 11-mile loop, which is a couple more than I predicted. So it was a good full day hike. Definitely the exploration of Cedar Rock Mountain and the torrential downpour for an hour with the break at Butter Gap Shelter slowed me down quite a bit. I was predicting I would be able to do this in around 4 hours so I could do another short waterfall hike afterwards. But since it's almost 5 o'clock, I think I'm done for the day. I'd rather get home in time to see the second half of Game 7 Cavs Celtics. So I hope you enjoyed this trip. It was quite an eventful day hike, and I'll see you guys next time on the trail. Peace.